Well, because there's such an inflow of talent, salaries haven't went up. We actually recently placed a job with a company, and we placed this exact same job 3 years ago at the exact same salary. The salary has not went up 1 dirham.
Yeah, but inflation.
Of course. No, but that's what I'm saying. But what we're seeing, the only thing, and this is a really important thing for people who are not here, that the salaries are not going up for the most part. Especially newly qualified jobs. The market rate. If you were to check my articles 3 years ago, I think the market rate would be very similar to what it is now, 18 to 20k. And everything else is going up. Schooling's going up, obviously petrol, obviously house rent has gone up crazy. So that is a bit of an elephant in the room for Dubai. I'm not sure how it's going to be addressed, but...
Do you think that, because kind of the junior end of the market, whenever you compare that to like salaries and stuff like that, do you think that there's not going to be a lot of junior roles anymore anyways, just because these salaries just don't make sense in...
Thank you for listening to the podcast thus far. The one favor I would ask, if you're enjoying what you're listening to, is to press the follow and subscribe button on whatever media platform you listen to us, as it helps us grow our network and grow the podcast. So thank you and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to the final part of this very special series on Alchemy Uncensored. I'm Wiam Kamel, and today we are turning the tables. In this episode, we'll be asking Connor all about the Dubai recruitment market, what's been happening in the first half of the year 2025, the industries that are driving growth, and the challenges that companies are facing. Connor?
I'm here. Let's go.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So the first question for you, how does the Dubai recruitment market in H1 2025 compare to H1 in 2024?
Well, thankfully, at the end of the H1, it's looking really, really good.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said January of H1 was our worst ever month ever in recruitment. Very loss-making.
Yeah.
Very sad. But thankfully, the February, March, we're very fortunate. Q2 has been really, really good to us. But yeah, look, it's been good. I think, there's a few factors. Obviously, we're working better jobs is the honest reality. As the business and the brand has evolved, we're working more senior hires now, which we'll talk a bit later on. But in general, our revenue numbers are, a little bit more, not too much more, but it's been consistent. It's definitely not a dead market, I would think. So overall, I'm quite happy.
Good.
Great. And what are the biggest changes or shifts you've noticed over the past 1 year?
The biggest shifts I've seen is that we're getting exposed to more senior jobs. This is something maybe we only got once every maybe quarter or every 6 months, like a big senior job. While I think now, based on the stats that Bernice showed, that 47% of our roles in H1 were senior jobs. So that's a shift from, I think it was 27%.
Wow, that's big.
That's a big shift. And there's less junior jobs. Obviously, the mid-level space, I think last year was 61. Now it's 30, 32, I think it is. So again, there's a few factors here. I think one, we're just getting more better, we're getting better jobs. The brand's probably getting a bit there. We've had great people working in the market as well. That's naturally got us better jobs. But yeah, we're noticing that there's not as many junior hires. I think as a business, we're probably going to step away from maybe hiring a lot of these junior positions, because obviously with everything that's happening with AI transformation, that some of these jobs unfortunately may not be here in 5 to 10 years. So yeah, no, it's been the biggest shift, I'd say, is the talent. The war for talent is the salaries aren't increasing. Anyone in Dubai, I know we've spoken to Wiam, Rudika, salaries in your spaces are probably a little bit higher. While because there's such an inflow of talent, salaries haven't went up. We actually recently placed a job with a company, and we placed this exact same job 3 years ago at the exact same salary. The salary has not went up 1 dirham.
Yeah, but inflation.
Yeah, of course.
Inflation,
Of course. No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing, the only thing, and this is a really important thing for people who are not here, that the salaries are not going up for the most part. Especially newly qualified jobs. The market rate, if you were to check my articles 3 years ago, I think the market rate would be very similar to what it is now, 18 to 20k. And everything else is going up. Schooling's going up, obviously petrol, obviously house rent has gone up crazy. So that is a bit of an elephant in the room for Dubai. I'm not sure how it's going to be addressed, but...
Do you think that, because kind of the junior end of the market, whenever you compare that to like salaries and stuff like that, do you think that there's not going to be a lot of junior roles anymore anyways, just because these salaries just don't make sense in
I think
Dubai?
companies are gonna
The automation
is going to be the APAR.
It was the AP and AR, yeah. I mean, it was halfway between AP and AR and modeling, financial modeling, but basic financial modeling.
Yeah, so there's lots of things which companies are always going to look at shortcuts. I think the reality is we're at the infancy of like companies are being guinea pigs. A lot of companies are going to try AI out, and then eventually in a couple of years' time, people will be like, that is the good product. At the moment, everyone's just trying to push their product in front of people. But yeah, the biggest thing I'm seeing is that, and that's why Abu Dhabi is very attractive, where there is bigger packages there, where if you're in Dubai, the biggest challenge that people forget about is that we have so many hires that are immediately available or out of job, because the company knows that they don't need to pay over the market rate for them. So someone who is actively looking for a job in Dubai, if they're in a job, you're going to struggle to get that 20-30% pay lift you expect or want, because you're going to have someone who's competing with you, who has the exact same rough experience, maybe the same nationality, because we know what UAE is like sometimes, but they will take the role way below what you'll take the role. And unfortunately, there's a challenge in whatever in this sort of part of the world where it's a very short-term focused view, where if you have a big cut in your leg, instead of getting it stitched, you just put a band-aid on it. Eventually it's going to come off again, but we see that happen so much. And that's why when companies lowball, and they do lowball, in 6 months' time they call us and say the candidate's gone. We told you the offer wasn't great in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess supply and demand always dictate the price anyways. So,
Exactly, yeah.
and it's not going to, I don't think it's going to slow down though, because there's all these like big plans that are happening in Dubai as well. People are moving here all the time.
Again, look, I know every recruiter says we're doing great. Like we're very fortunate. The last week or two, we actually are quite busy. A lot of things have been called in. Obviously it's another thing trying to place them, but people say, oh, the summer, nothing happens.
Things are moving.
And I'm sure it's with other agencies as well. We're not a monopoly company like that, but it's good for us.
And I think even in tax, like summer, it's not going to slow down, because with September deadlines coming up, that
Rutika loves that
Get those
September
fines.
deadline, doesn't she?
Fines. Yeah, get the fines in, Ruts.
So the next question for you then, about industries.
Let's go.
So what have you seen in the market in terms of like industries that were hiring in H1 2024 versus 2025?
So our biggest industry hiring in H1 2024 was commodity trading by a mile. And now it looks like all those companies have been sanctioned or something, because they're not hiring anymore. They've gone off the planet. Like last year, we had a crazy amount of hiring for commodity trading companies that had relocated from Russia, Geneva, all to Dubai, had a lot of money. And look, of course, maybe a lot of them are still in existence, but this year we've had none. Either we've done a very bad job, or the people are happy, but that's something that's went from being out of nowhere to nothing this year.
Yeah, maybe it was just the buzz in the moment, right? Of everything and unknowns and people moving here, and then now it's just settled a little bit.
It's settled a bit, And then this year, I think it wouldn't be to any surprise, our biggest one this year seems to be real estate. A lot of real estate, of course.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, Dubai, real estate's the big one based on our stats now. This is, of course, Alchemy's data. And last year, manufacturing was really big as well. Law firms, consulting, they're always busy. No matter what's happening in the world, these guys are making money.
Yeah.
They've probably been the biggest one. Real estate seems to be crazy. But I think as well, what we're seeing, especially real estate is probably a good example, where because these companies are making so much money at such a fast rate that the finance function can't keep up with the way they're set up. And again, anyone who's in the UAE will know that finance functions can sometimes be seen as cost centers, where what people are maybe used to back in India or Europe, where it's a really fully fledged function with a controllership team, FP&A team. Here it is a lot more leaner. And I guess the feedback is probably from CFOs or whoever's in the finance lead position is like, whoa, we need to upskill our staff here. We can't get away with some guy or girl who's been in the role for 20 years as an FC. We need to get some, fresher, newer talent in there. So yeah, I think there's definitely upskilling going on.
Yeah. Yeah, real estate's always going through these waves, right? It's like crazy sometimes and then it goes back down. But all the projects, I mean, the handover of all these like new villas, new apartments, new communities that are being built, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, it's crazy. Obviously, it's going to create jobs, that's for sure.
Well, they need to build more commercial
Yeah.
units.
There's not that many. Not that many.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of hair trying to get a new office. But anyway, next question.
So looking forward to the second half of 2025, what is your outlook for the Dubai market particularly?
I think the outlook is good. And I said we're on a little bit of a crest wave compared to the start of the year. I think we're quite busy, which is nice. And from speaking to competitors, I know they're quite busy as well, which is good. It's good to hear everyone's busy. So yeah, I think look, the main things in demand, which I think Wiam mentioned in her podcast, is it is that business partnering skill. I think that's the big thing that we're hearing a lot more about. And because Alchemy, we're not a banking or a financial services agency. We are a commerce industry. We are tangible products, oil and gas. So what we're seeing from the CFOs is that they're looking for an accountant that can do all that, but at the same time, he or she can go up and pull the sales guy aside and not be afraid to challenge him or her. And we've won, quite senior role at the moment where there's a good bit of travel involved. But the biggest thing, I think now where the way finance is going, that it's a prerequisite that the candidate will have the skill set to do the accounting part of the job. You will have the qualification. You will have done your audit training or you've done your industry training. That's just given now at this stage. But they're looking for people who can business partner with the CFO or with the GM and then go to different sites and push back on the people and not be a yes man. And I think that's what a lot of companies probably did have previously, a lot of yes men or yes women. And that's the demand skill set that I've definitely seen.
And with everything that you've said so far then, particularly with like industry, the seniority of roles and the salaries, kind of like not matching expenses, etc. Do you think that any of these trends are going to change, or is it going to like continue?
Well, I think it's going to become less attractive, Dubai. I think people will probably think about it a bit more. I think for the young, up and coming, newly qualified, single or people without kids, Dubai is the place for you. But I think the people who are mid-level, finance manager or controller, maybe looking at salaries of maybe, let's just say 25 to 35, if they've got couple of kids and they're coming here, and these are things that people don't think. If you're not from the region, you don't understand how expensive schooling is. And I don't have kids, but some of my friends have kids, and the numbers they talk about schooling, it's basically like the tax you're going to get if in your home country, maybe even worse. So I think, and that's why Abu Dhabi's stock is going to keep rising, is because you're going to get a call from Wiam saying, oh yeah, you can get 30k a month, but we can also get schooling. You can get flights for family, all these things where, because Dubai is getting away with underpaying, I think, because you have so many people who are desperate for work and want to be here, and they're just they're driving salaries slightly down, or else they're staying at the same level. So I think that's the biggest challenge we foresee.
Do you think that, so you said it's going to become less attractive, I guess. Do you think we're going to see a correction in the demand and the supply, or more so the supply rather than the demand of like candidates coming to the UAE, and maybe hopefully there's a price correction? Or
yeah, well, the price correction may not happen because salaries have stayed so consistent. But the reality is the hiring companies are getting away with it because they don't need to overoffer. And then what's happening is even the guys who are in jobs, let's just say someone's on 25k, they get an offer of 27k. Terrible offer, 10%, not even. They go back to resign and their boss just goes, I'll pay you 27, 28, and they stay. Yeah. So nobody's moving. And it's bringing that salary up slightly. But again, if the hiring, because the hiring companies are making not great, in my opinion, offers, because every company thinks they're great. We think we're great. We don't really, but every company thinks they're the best company in the world. And they think that if we make this offer, fair enough, if the person doesn't have a job, of course, the chance of them taking is higher. But if someone's worked with another company for 4 or 5 years and they're only really leaving because of money, they're going to stay. If they like their boss, they'll say, okay, I'll stay. What's the point in taking the risk for 2,000 dirhams more a month when you get offered to stay? So yeah, that's...
I guess we'll have to see what happens.
We'll have to see, yeah. We'll have to see.
It'll be interesting to see as well whether the real estate as an industry continues to be on this like trajectory or it's going to slow down. I don't think it will, because I think that there is a lot that's happening there. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, kind of like in the next 12 months.
Yeah, well, I think, look, the biggest thing anyone who's considering Dubai for relocation is that, you know, your first role won't be your dream role. You know, expect that. And, you know, just understand that it's a tough environment where, you know, the biggest problem we have at the moment is that when the team are advertising jobs, we're getting messages saying, I tick every single box. But the reality of Dubai is, because it's so culturally diverse, it's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. You know, I could be perfect for this company here, but I won't be perfect for the next company there. And that it works for everyone. People think it might be biased for one race or not. Everyone's here. And that's
how life works.
No, but in different countries, it's not. You know, if you're in Ireland or you're in India, you're mostly surrounded with your own people for the most part. So when you go for a job, you know, all the companies are the same. And what we know in UAE, and it's nothing wrong with it, you know, you have different mafias, different tribes.
Yeah, you're competing against the world.
Yeah, but certain companies are going to have a bias. And that's something that no one wants to talk about, but people that have been in the market know that.
Yeah.
And that wraps up the final part of this special series of Alchemy Uncensored. We've covered so much over these episodes, from Wiam's insights on the Abu Dhabi market to Rudika's expertise in the tax sector. And finally, today's discussion on the exciting developments in Dubai. The first half of 2025 has been full of opportunities and challenges. And as we look ahead, there's been so much more to be optimistic about. A huge thank you to Wiam and our new principal consultant, Rudika, for joining me in this series and sharing the incredible knowledge. And of course, thank you all for listening and staying tuned to the conversation. Stay curious, stay ambitious, and we'll see you in the next season of Alchemy Uncensored. Take care. Slán Abhaile.